Oh, hey, good morning, everybody, depending on which part of this beautiful country that you're in. It's afternoon where my co-host is from. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. You're watching Rebel Roundup. It's our daily news and opinion show, and I'm joined today by my co-host, my colleague, someone who makes a lot of my other work at this company possible, Tamara Ugolini. Tamara, how's it going?
Well, Sheila, we have, I think, our fourth snow day today
Oh,
in a
wow.
week, and I'm also celebrating one of my children's birthdays. So it's a
Oh,
good day for some of us. How are you doing over there?
it's cold.
Yeah.
She's cold. We're in the middle of a cold snap. I think this is our third or fourth cold snap. January is always the longest month of the year. It feels like there's 60
Mhm.
days in January. And in fact, this week feels like 2 weeks long already, and it's only Thursday. But that's because we're sort of doing double duty at Rebel News because we're doing all of our other work to hold all the bad guys to account, and then the bad guys are having their meeting in Davos, but we've got our team on the ground there to hold them to account. Now, I'll tell everybody what we're doing, and then we'll get into the news of the day because it's busy, you're busy. And if Tamara and I are both on the live stream, then we're causing a bottleneck somewhere else. So we don't want to go too long today. If you're watching us on Rumble, that's a great free speech platform. Thank you for watching us there. If you want to get involved in the show and support the work that we do, you can leave a Rumble rant. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, it's obligatory. We're reading it on air. If it's under that, we appreciate you and we'll do our very best to get to those time permitting. We ask for your support because we won't take a penny from the government to do the work that we do around here. If you are watching us on YouTube, I know for nearly 2 million, I can't believe that number, 2 million of you, that's your preferred way of watching us. You can support our work over there by way of a super chat. And if you miss the live version of the show, you can also leave a super thanks. And again, thank you to those of you who choose to spend your money on us. I know that times are tight, there's less money in your pocket than ever before, and we just appreciate you throwing your financial support behind us. So, today at the World Economic Forum, Vladimir Zelensky was there. And these people are just rubbing it in our faces at this point. Is that how this is going? You know,
Basically.
Mark Carney pulled the old New World Order statement with poor Scott Moe, who looked like he was in a hostage video after their trip back from China. And then now it has really been the theme of the World Economic Forum to the point where um, I think the single largest recipient of Canadian foreign aid and probably global foreign aid, Vladimir Zelensky from Ukraine, is now parroting that same phrase, saying that world leaders need to act now to create a new world order. So let's hear this.
But where is the line of leaders who are ready to act? Act now, on land, in the air, at the sea, to build a new global order. You can't build the new world order out of words. Only actions create real order.
What does he want us to do? Does he want us to send troops? Is that what he's talking about? Or more money? But he did say that we need to act on the land, the air, and the sea. How? How? You want us to send our young men to fight your unwinnable forever war? You're already getting our money. What are we supposed to do here?
Swaths of money. Well, and I also found it interesting the clip of Zelensky also where like it seemed to be okay. So the theme at Davos, this Swiss schmooze fest this year was all about dialogue, but it really seemed to be about like thinly veiled passive aggressive criticisms and like straight up call outs of President Trump. And Zelensky was not immune to that dialogue that they created at the World Economic Forum this past week. And he calls out Trump and asks, like, correlated what's happening with Ukraine and Russia to what the US just did with Madros in Venezuela.
With Maduro, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. In Venezuela, and asked
What?
basically why Putin was still roaming the world or Russia, a free man, and calling on Trump to basically do the same thing and come in and arrest Putin and put him on trial. And I think we have that clip. if we could show that one, because really,
What's
like, unless you see it and hear it for yourself, it's kind of unbelievable.
what is the American interest in black bagging Putin like they did Maduro? Like there's no American interest there. Anyways, I'll save my comments till after. I haven't seen this, so I'm coming in cold, but I'm excited to see it.
Let's look at the Western Hemisphere. President Trump led an operation in Venezuela, and Maduro was arrested. And there were different opinions about it, but the fact remains Maduro is on trial in New York. Sorry, but Putin is not on trial. And this is the fourth year of the biggest war in Europe since World War II. And the man who started it is not only free, he is still fighting for his frozen money in Europe. And you know what? He is having some success, it's true. It's Putin who's trying to decide how the frozen Russian assets should be used, not those who have the power to punish him for this war. Thankfully, the EU decided to freeze Russian assets indefinitely, and I'm grateful for that. Thanks Ursula, thanks Antonio, and all the leaders who helped. But when the time came to use those assets to defend against Russian aggression, the decision was blocked.
Yeah. So when he talks about action, I think that is where
what he
he's
wants.
thinly veiling his passive aggressive comments toward Trump to take action. I mean, and he also calls on Europe to stop the flow of Russian oil. We have that clip as well. Stop
that
the
would have
flow
been
of Russian oil so that because it's inadvertently, or I guess not really inadvertently, but directly funding
yeah,
the
it
opposition,
sure is.
according to
It
Zelensky.
Yeah, but it sure is. And Canada was the solution to that. But just going back to his comments there, um, the Monroe Doctrine basically puts the Americans in charge of the Western Hemisphere, whether the rest of these crybabies like it or not. We saw what Pete Hegseth and the boys did in 88 some odd minutes to Maduro. One day he's sleeping in his bed, then it's just tumbleweeds, his empty slippers, and you're on a Black Hawk in a new tracksuit wearing earmuffs and a sleep mask on the way to New York to stand trial. But that's the Monroe Doctrine. That's the Western Hemisphere. You can't out of one side of your mouth say Trump's a bad guy and this and that, but then also saying, oh, you need to expand the Monroe Doctrine to cover the entire world. Careful what you wish for, guys, because that's how you end up giving them Greenland. And these guys are all crying about Greenland.
Well, the funny part about Greenland, just while you mention it, Sheila, is that Zelensky also mentioned in there that Ukraine would help defend Greenland.
How?
And right,
How much more money do we have to give this guy?
the hypocrisy just seeds from these people when you realize the context in which they speak and how out of touch they sound when you recognize the global affairs and context that they're speaking in. I mean, it's absolutely astounding that some of these people can get up on this stage and speak the way that they do in blatant disregard of things that are actually happening on the ground. Yeah, so here, look, he says
nobody's going to attack Greenland militarily at all. There's like 13 people there. If Trump rolls in with a stack of cash, those people are going to want to be at least under the control of the Americans. I was doing some digging on the Denmark thing and their relationship with Greenland. After they annexed it, Greenland then goes and joins Denmark then goes and joins the EU. But you know who's not part of the EU? Greenland. So they want full control over these people as though they are a colony. And Europe seems to be very serious about making sure that they stay within the control of Europe, but they don't get any of the benefits, I guess, if there are any benefits to being Europeans. They're not part of the EU. So their mother country, the Kingdom of Denmark, they're members of the EU, but Greenland is not. They're treated like second-class citizens. If the Americans rolled up and said, our beloved Greenlanders, I think they might be willing to listen. But
not if Zelensky has anything to do with
Zelensky can, by the way, if Zelensky wants a dictator black bagged and stuffed in a Black Hawk, take it up with his buddy Macron or maybe Keir Starmer. They're the Europeans. The Monroe Doctrine applies to the Western Hemisphere, and I enjoy peace and safety thanks to the Monroe Doctrine. But yeah, let's watch Zelensky saying that
Offering,
he's going to save Greenland from
yeah,
what?
can't even save Ukraine.
Well, and what's going to happen to Greenland? Trump's is going to come on real strong, and with the art of the deal. No, we've all seen what the American military can do. Okay, we've seen. Ugh.
Until America pressured Europe to spend more on defense, most countries were not even trying to reach 5% of GDP, the minimum needed to ensure security.
We're giving you
Europe
all of our
needs to
money.
know how to defend itself. And if you send 30 or 40 soldiers to Greenland,
Just 40.
what is that for? What message does it send? What's the message to Putin, to China? And even more importantly, what message does it send to Denmark? The most important, your close ally. You either declare that European bases will protect the region from Russia and China and establish those bases, or you risk not being taken seriously because 30 or 40 soldiers will not protect anything. And we know what to do. If Russian warships are sailing freely around Greenland, Ukraine can help. We have the expertise and weapons
Expertise.
to ensure not one of those ships remains. They can sink near Greenland just as they do near Crimea.
Right. He makes an interesting point there. I almost agreed with him, but he's asking the wrong people for help. Actually, Trump is the solution to this problem, isn't he? Because he is talking about Russian incursion into that territory and Chinese incursion into that territory, which is literally the same thing that Trump is talking about, which is why Trump says we need to secure Greenland. And of course, he cannot count on Canada as a secure partner in the North anymore because we're making deals with the people he's concerned about in the North. So, honestly, I know this is bizarre, and I came in to that clip with a different viewpoint. But yeah, Europe, what are you going to do? And if you're not going to do anything, and I don't think you can do much of anything, maybe Trump is right. And maybe, like, if you look at this just completely from a macro viewpoint, Trump is concerned about the same things that Zelensky just mentioned there with Denmark, and Europe doesn't seem to be capable of doing anything about it. So what's the solution, guys? It's not Ukraine, by the way.
Yeah, they're going to sink Russian warships off of the coast of Greenland, is what I gathered from that clip also.
So World
in
War
other-
III, you're saying?
Yeah.
World War III then? Okay. Great
Well, and
solution,
then
guys.
absolutely, the end of his speech is where he says that we must take action, that words alone will not further this new global order, as he calls it. And so he's calling for action. And so, yeah, I mean, this is, I think a lot of these speeches have, again, thinly veiled, passive aggressively warmongered.
Oh, for sure. And it's the passive aggressive men. I don't know about you, Tamara, but men who take these like passive aggressive lady swipes at other dudes, it's gross. Like, it's just so unbecoming. And when you see world leaders do it, like Mark Carney, you got to come out like the big dog Trump did. If Mark Carney said something that irritates you, say Mark Carney said something that was stupid. Use his name. Don't dance around and use phrases like middle powers and we're like Macron. We're loyal. We respect the rule of law as like a passive aggressive, nonsensical swipe at Trump. Just say Trump then, because Trump knows we all know what you're talking about. Just say it. Be like Trump. Say it.
Yeah. Especially as Carney's speech was all about like the facade and ripping down the signs of diplomacy basically out of the window. And then he's like thinly veiled passive aggressively calling out Trump. And then Trump comes in the next day and is like, don't forget that, Mark.
Don't forget,
And
Mark, you're safe
I
because of
loved
me,
it.
Mark. Yeah, it
Thank
was
you,
great.
Trump, from just a
Thanks.
regular old Canadian. Mark Carney
Yeah.
doesn't speak for me.
Yeah.
In
Oh,
other World
another
Economic
forum
Forum
stuff.
news. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Ezra bumped into your old buddy Tedros.
Yeah.
I
Imagine
think
that.
you were the first rebel to ever accost him in a public place. And
He
Ezra
thought we were
ran,
friends.
yes, he did. Well, you are friendly as all get out. You were just a friend he hadn't met yet. And so Ezra ran into him. By the way, we have World Health Organization news, I think, that just broke before we came on air. I haven't been able to confirm. So while we watch this, maybe I'll do that.
Tedros, do you have any regrets about the mandatory vaccines and people being fired for not taking them, now that we know that they didn't really do the job? Do you have any regrets?
I think countries have the right to decide based on the risk, the situation in their countries.
If you had to do it all over again, would you do anything differently? Rebel News.
No, of course he wouldn't do anything differently. These people are immune from scrutiny. They can just go off in their little meetings and their backdoor dealings, and they don't have to answer to the little people. They just get to implement the heavy hammer of diktats and supposed public health restrictions onto them. I don't know if we can just pull up the clip of when I first approached
Yeah.
Tedros. That was at the World Health Summit that takes place every year in Berlin, in Germany. And so the World Health Summit is the decision-making body of the World Health Organization, or sorry, the World Health Assembly, which
Yeah.
is what this event was, that happens in October of every year in Berlin. That's the decision-making body and kind of weekend getaway for the World Health Organization. And so the World Health Assembly makes decisions. They've been the ones that are moving forward with things like the pandemic agreement or accord, whatever it's called, changes to the international health regulations. And of course, they have all these subsidiary bodies underneath of the World Health Assembly, working groups and subcommittees and committees and so on and so forth. But the World Health Assembly is very shadowy. Like, I had never heard about it prior to COVID, really, and coming into this topic through my journalism. But it used to be very shadowy organization, subsidiary of the World Health Organization itself. And I went up to Tedros and I was like, "Oh, Mr. Tedros, Mr. Tedros." And it was really difficult to know that it was him at first, because we were in the hotel that they were hosting this event. And he was wearing a mask. Of course, it was a time where mandates were still very much alive and well. I wasn't wearing a facial diaper. And so I said, "Mr. Tedros, Mr. Tedros." And at first I didn't really know for sure that it was him. But he cozied right up to me, thought I was some sort of fangirl. And I suppose my voice and my nice friendly smile did kind of
Exactly.
allude to that. And so he put his
That's
arm
your
right around me.
secret weapon, is just how cute and disarming you are.
Yeah, he put his arm right around me. You can see it there. And he's, "Oh, yes," tries to embrace me. I think I have the short clip up on my X account. But anyway, I believe that intro's maybe just a minute and a half or so.
Yeah, I
And
think we
the
found it.
clip itself was, I think it was 22 seconds in total, showing just how quick you have to be. You have to be ready to hit them with questions and really prepare yourself for just 20 seconds to
You
get a
have to,
question in.
yeah. Look at he like wearing an KN95 mask while putting his hands on you. Like, what is it? Do you know how this stuff is transmitted? Like, you have bare shoulders, and these guys are wearing KN95s to prevent what? I don't know. But he's obviously not scared about transmission. That's just part of their uniform, I guess, because they wouldn't
Yeah.
be meeting in Berlin. All this stuff can be a Zoom call. But
Absolutely.
but then you don't get the party.
Well, and you can see his handler quickly
Yeah.
divides, comes in and puts her body in between us. As soon as I asked something about, if you could support lockdowns again, would you?
Yeah. Do you know what? Let's just play it because we've been showing the viz. Let's just play the audio because it is true. Like you have to know a little bit about everything when you go to these conferences because you don't know
Mhm.
who you're going to see. You're just fishing from the shore, I guess is how it works. Because that's when I was in Davos last year. That's how it was. It was like, oh, there's second in charge at BlackRock. Let's just start asking them about, what weapons dealings and whatever. You just have to it's got to be there like right away. Anyway, let's watch.
Okay,
Mr.
Are you
Tedros, how
coming
are
to
you?
the
How are you,
NCD?
Mr. Tedros? If you could do lockdowns again, would you do them? If you could do lockdowns again, would you support them?
I'm sorry, please.
Mr. Tedros, if you could do lockdowns again, would you support them? That's what you get for unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats heading in there to the WHO conference, the World Health Summit. Tedros was nervous.
Yeah.
And
You know
the
what to
only
do.
reason we caught him was because we paid the astronomical nightly rate to stay at the hotel that they were hosting this summit. Otherwise, who knows if they go in through back doors, they have a whole security entourage. I was waiting for the elevator to go back up to the room to get the rest of my gear, and I was there with Alexa, and she was up in the room getting all of the gear ready. So I was quite literally on my own, cell phone in hand, didn't have anything else, wasn't expecting at all to bump into Tedros as he exited the elevator heading into one of these these what are they called, the side events,
Plenaries or
and
whatever. Yeah.
yeah, these plenary sessions. And so there you have it, 22 seconds of Tedros in the hallway at this conference, only because we rented or reserved a room for one night, because it was, these are swanky spots that the likes of the World Health Organization and the World Health Assembly are buying up for their conferences. And so we could get in only one night, and we got Tedros.
And the thing is, that's what most journalism is. There's a lot of waiting, but you have to be there because if you're not there, then there's zero chance of getting them. So you have to be
Exactly.
there, and that then it ups your chance to 1%, I guess. But sometimes you get lucky. But when you do get lucky, you have to have your brain's got to be firing on all cylinders because you have to sort of push down the adrenaline and then kick your brain into gear. And sometimes it's hard to do both.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to talk about? Do we want to talk about Ottawa welcoming Chinese investment in food processing and manufacturing? That's kind of.
why
do we need this?
Well, so far, it's been eat the bugs, and now I'm wondering if we are going to be eating the dogs. Ottawa welcomes Chinese investment in Canada's food processing, manufacturing industries. And so this is part of Canada's new strategic partnership, as they're calling it, with Industry Minister Melanie Joly, and the cozying up to the Chinese Communist Party. And so we have the lead here of the article that comes from, where's the Globe and Mail? Naturally. Yeah. Ottawa is encouraging China to invest in Canada's food processing and manufacturing industries, an area where the country has struggled to secure the capital it needs to stay globally competitive. Which is so ironic given, I believe it was Jolie just 2 days ago at one of these meetings in Davos, where she said Canada's a global leader in the food market.
Yeah, I know.
So which is it?
Well, and here's the thing. We are. We're the world's leading exporter of canola, pulses, peas, portable, dry, shelf-stable proteins to the developing world. We're leading the way on that. Just ask India. We export beef around the world, pork, seafood. So yes, we are. Here's the problem. Investors and agri-food industry spokespeople welcome the prospect of increased Chinese capital, but are also warning that Canada must ensure it maintains control of its resources in that sector, i.e. don't hollow us out like they're doing to Africa. for resources. And there's a lot of truth in this article. Historically, a low-profile file for Ottawa. Yeah, wonder why. Where's all the food grown and raised? The West. So they really don't care. Agriculture has long struggled to secure the capital required to transform Canada into the food juggernaut it could be, said Evan Fraser, director of the Arrell Food Institute at the University of Guelph. Canada is likely to become the most important breadbasket in the world over the next few years, he said, noting the effects of, oh my God, of course. Noting the effects of climate change and rising aridity in other more southern agricultural competitors. Except that's not a problem here because developments in food science help us grow food in shorter time spans in more difficult climates, like northern Alberta. But the problem is the Liberals are the reason it's not easy to invest, to find international or even domestic investors in our food supply chain, from producers all the way through. It's just like the oil and gas sector. Nobody wants to invest in Canada. It's very difficult. And the Liberals are always threatening bizarre policies like emissions targets, methane targets, carbon taxes for grain drying and barn heating. It isn't easy to invest here. Capital gains. They're constantly threatening capital gains changes. So yeah, nobody wants to invest here. It's almost like the phone calls coming from inside the house, and their solution is we'll invite in Chinese investment instead of fixing the problem, which chases away investment here.
Yeah, and strengthening that trade partnership again, repeatedly, I say, with our closest ally, our neighboring country, the United States. Going, across the pond, across the world to China and the likes, and aligning us more with the Europeans does not make geographical sense and also historical sense. Not to mention, all the human rights abuses of China. And I like the way that Ezra put it when he was questioning Jolie, which I don't think we've played that clip, so maybe we'll play it right after. He says essentially this is whitewashing their human rights abuses by cozying up to them for all of this stuff.
Right. I just don't understand why not a single person at the World Economic Forum discussed fixing the relationship with the Americans. They're all like, we've got to pivot. We've got all the middle powers have to unite, and we have to make this block of the Soviet block of middle powers for some reason. No one was like, you know what? They're the reason the Western Hemisphere is an okay place to be. And they are the world's largest economy, the world's largest market. Maybe we should figure out how to get along with them. Like, nobody said that. It was all confrontational, passive-aggressive BS the whole time. Let's show that clip of Ezra interacting with our industry minister. See if it gives you confidence if you were looking to invest in a major Canadian sector, that this is the woman driving the conversation.
Why are you cozying up to China with their human rights abuses? China and Hamas, there's a bit of a pattern there, don't you think?
I'm sorry, are you going to trip right now?
No, I don't think so, but I'm worried that you are whitewashing China's human rights abuses just to troll Donald Trump.
Well, listen, you can explain that to your viewers. We have a different point of view. And so we're doing it for us, for Canada.
Well, your Prime Minister said that China was the #1 security threat, and now he's making a partnership with them.
I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China.
So you heard what the Prime Minister had to say.
What do you have to say about this?
Thank you.
Listen, guys,
Thank you.
We're just trying to do a job here. Thanks.
And I'm trying to do my job as well.
That's great.
Run away, bravely run away, bravely run away. There's Canada's great pride right there.
Yeah, our industry minister.
She's is a vapid idiot. Like yesterday we had to watch Gary and Nandasangari on the show, and I must have used the word idiot 20 times in the span of 180 seconds. I'm resisting the urge to do it again, but she doesn't have much going on in her head, does she? When you're being asked about human rights, like serious human rights abuses done by the Chinese. They have concentration camps, lady. And she just sort of smugly smiles it off. And then she tries to use her feminine wiles on Ezra and like puts her hand on him and sort of tries to disarm his question. Maybe that might work with Glenn McGregor, who does not get a lot of female attention, but it doesn't work on Ezra Levant. He's there to do his job. Although if you showed up with like a snack, you might have distracted him.
She should have pulled out a little Nutella or something.
Here's a
from
cheese
her.
string. Throw it over there. I'm kidding. But yeah, like she just smugly smiles it off when you're talking about some of the worst people doing the worst things to innocent people on the face of the earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the funny part about her talk in one of these meetings was I think that the mask slipped and Jolie said the quiet part out loud. She revealed that the Liberals' entire strategy is basically just a massive psyop. Put out all these plans, make it look like they have some sort of deal, give people something, quite literally, she said, some people something to follow along, and make them feel like we have a plan so that they can feel as though the government is in control. Like, you can't make this stuff up. If we have that clip, let's play that one, please.
Well, I think, as a government, for us, we look at everything, all the levers I've talked to you about, diversification. I've talked to you about like real industrial policy on, we're coming up with things on auto, on the defense and industrial strategy. We're looking at a new AI strategy, et cetera. But fundamentally, when we, develop all these policies, we have to govern a nation. And we have to bring people along. And we have that responsibility in a very turbulent and chaotic world right now, with a lot of anxiety, with a lot of frustration, where people think things are costing too much. And so, and they're fearful and are not necessarily trusting people, necessarily at this forum. There's a real issue of people being preoccupied, whether they're becoming powerless. So my point is it's giving this idea to people that we are in control, that we're dealing with things, that in this chaos we have a plan, that we have all the levers that will have an impact on their lives. And fundamentally, all the policies that I've talked to you about will create jobs, will be helping them to have access to better services, and ultimately also to a promise of themselves and their children to have access to a better life. It comes back to basics, but I think that's what we need to show concretely back home.
They're in
It's
control.
it's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
If you have an AI strategy in 2026, it's already too late.
Right. We need to show everybody that we're in control. Okay, but what are you doing, by the way? Because it feels like this country is out of control. Like immigration is out of control, the economy is out of control, inflation is out of control, housing is out of control. The healthcare system is crumbling. And don't write me letters that the healthcare system is provincial, because it is governed by the Canada Health Act. So there are only certain things that the provinces can do inside of the Canada Health Act. So this country is a mess, and it's out of control. And the last thing I want to do is give the people who led it down that path even more powers to make it worse. We should try something new. And I think the West is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, chaos, order out of chaos, right? When she says things feel very chaotic and we don't have any trust in the people here in Davos. And yet here I am sitting up in my throne telling everyone, don't worry, we'll announce that we have a plan. So it feels like we're doing something, and it feels like we're moving everything along and moving you along. And especially to where she says, people think that things cost too much. No, that's the whole problem with you ivory tower dwellers, is that they don't think, they actually, things are costing too much. Inflation has still not cooled down. Food prices are up. I think it's like over 6% in the last few years. or maybe even more than that. But food prices keep going up and up and up. Affordability is a real crisis. Housing is a crisis. And as you've already said, Sheila, a lot of this is caused by unfettered, open the floodgates immigration, and the fact that we don't have any sort of concrete governance and haven't for the last decade under her government's rule. You've had 10 years. What are you doing? You're just getting a plan now?
That was the point I was just about to make. Boy, I sure hope she finds the people who've been in charge for the last 10 or 11 years and sorts it out. Like, you guys did this. Now, 11 years out, you're like, oh, things are kind of bad around here. We should come up with a plan to fix it. Our plan to fix it was to get rid of you, but the Eastern Boomers had other designs. Do we want to talk about Howard Lutnick just ripping up Mark Carney a little bit? A well-deserved verbal beatdown for our prime minister for his if you watch all the liberal supporters, the elbows up crowd on X, they think that Carney's speech before the World Economic Forum was the greatest thing since Churchill. And I listened to it and I'm like, I don't even know exactly what he said. And I feel like I communicate for a living, so I thought I would have a good grasp of it, but it was a lot of nothing. And I really appreciate the way the Americans talk. I wish we were more like that. Here's Howard Lutnick, the U.S. Commerce Secretary, telling the world exactly what the Americans think of Mark Carney at the World Economic Forum.
And Canada is just thinking in this arrogant kind of thought.
Well, but just to build on what John is talking about, it's a style question. Can you get the same results without using words like calling leaders weak or their economies decaying, right? Is it necessary to provoke the visceral feeling that we feel among a lot of leaders here and in conversations with international investors? I mean, is there any other way? Is that style more harmful than it is helpful?
Well, I think it creates listening. Like, people pay attention to it and listen to it. If you just sort of blend in, no one hears anything in Davos, right? Everybody says the same blah, 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 blah. And if you need to break out and you need to say it. So my view is, right, that Canada has never expressed to the world that they have the best deal, the second best deal in the world. The best deal in the world is Mexico, because remember, they have USMCA, which means 85% of the Canadian economy comes into the United States for zero. And there he is complaining that he's going to go to China and improve it. What's he going to do? China's delighted to sell to him. But do you think China's going to open their economy to accept exports from Canada? This is the silliest thing I've ever seen. They have the second best deal because Mexico's got a little better deal. They have 25% on the extra 15%, whereas Canada's got 35% on the extra 15%. But give me a break. They have the second best deal in the world. And all I got to do is listen to this guy whine and complain?
Mr. Secretary, in fairness, you've seen from the airplanes, you've seen about a 30% decline in Canadian visitors to the United States, if not significantly more. You've seen a similar type of decline from China. European travelers inbound have come down. There is a sense that people do not want to come to the culture of the U.S., and there is this anger about it. And I just wonder if you think that that's just temporary, or you just sort of dismiss that, or you think it's irrelevant to the actual issues.
I think what that is political marketing. Right? The Canadians have the second best deal in the whole wide world. If they continue this path, right, which is a political path of a certain thing. I'm going to go fly to China. I'm going to open up my markets to China. I'm going to take Chinese electric cars and do all sorts of this stuff. Then when USMCA gets renegotiated.
This year,
sort of like towards the end of the summer, in the middle of the summer, do you think the President of the United States is going to say, you should keep having the second best deal in the world? I mean, you guys are such great friends. I mean, they are playing with a set of rules that they haven't really thought
I can hear it in your voice. You're excited about negotiating this, aren't you, later this year?
Well, they've sort of given a sort of a roadmap of saying, so I guess we should change the whole deal, right? You want to be like the rest of the world. You don't want to be this favored neighbor because you've taken it so for granted that you're willing to come to Davos and say there's two hegemonic powers in the world and we're going to decide which one we're going to work with. Really? You're going to either work with the United States of America, where 75% of your economy is totally tied to it, or China? Why would you say that? I think it's political. I think if we take it correctly, we should look at it as just political noise coming out of a prime minister. And maybe this is working for his election, right? Because I don't think it can be real. Because if you took out the math of Canada's economy and it doing business with the United States of America's $30 trillion economy, there's no such thing as changing what they have today. No one would vote for changing what they had today. Now, maybe they're marketing it well, but they're just for their politics. But they're surely not marketing it well for their fundamental economics for long-term the United States.
The U.S. is doing.
Yeah, he's right. He's completely right. The only reason Carney is doing this is for the Eastern elbows up boomers, because what he's doing does not make any economic sense whatsoever. Yes, it is good that we did get some canola tariffs lifted, not all of them, which opens up the Chinese market in advance of planting. That's why that's so timely. But the rest of this nonsense, it doesn't make economic sense to be in a perpetual fight with the Americans, except that it advances Mark Carney's chances at the ballot boxes, which is a horrible thing, because it means that the Liberals would burn down our economy as long as it left them in power.
Yeah, and Lutnick was really on fire at Davos. I'm not sure if you had played the clip of him calling out the globalists yesterday or the day before. Oh, that was such a great clip. If we could play that one. This was Lutnick yesterday, or was it Tuesday? All my days are kind of melding in together at this point.
We're on World Economic Forum time.
And he
I have no idea what day it is.
He was making the globalists squirm, calling it out. He was just on absolute fire. And so this the clip that we just played, him saying the nonsense and the silliness of Mark Carney, just adds more fuel to the fire that was Lutnick at Davos this week. Do we have that clip of him?
I don't know. Oh, okay, great.
I hope this is the one.
Well, I think you should start at a much higher level. Okay. We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
Yeah, there you have it. Globalism just ripped to shreds by Lutnick the day before that he gives this silliness talk about Carney's speech.
Good thing they had like guardrails on those chairs, because that one guy was going to wiggle right out of it. Like, it was good.
I loved it. Lutnick was awesome this week at the World Economic Forum. Do we want to hit a quick ad break? We're just like firing through this show with all these WEF clips. So maybe let's hit an ad break and then we'll come back for some more.
And you can do the message from our friends at the Wellness Company when we get back, and we'll try to hit the headliners and then the cringe, because the cringe is quite something.
Some of these super chats.
Super chats too. Yeah, that's also why we're here. Okay, let's hit an ad break.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us, Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
You like the hat? Me too. Same strong message about making Canada great again, but in a really cool color, black and gold. There's other colors available, and it's an all Canadian site. So if you want to signal your tribe or trigger a Liberal, go to mcgahats.ca today.
All right, we have a quick ad read from our friends at the Wellness Company on the ultimate spike detox and amyloid microclots. So the trickery about man-made spike proteins is they can slowly and secretly create long-lasting effects inside the body, despite people feeling fine. In a new peer-reviewed study, researchers tested the blood of 34 women and men who all received the Pfizer mRNA vaccine, and every one of them tested positive for micro blood clots circulating in their system. These are stubborn, hard to break down clots that have been linked to lingering symptoms in both the unvaccinated and vaccinated. So the obvious question becomes, how do we detox the spike proteins? Nattokinase, a natural enzyme that has been shown to dissolve up to 84% of micro blood clots within 2 hours in vitro. Even at lower amounts, it still reduced the number of clots, the intensity of the clot signal, and the overall clot size. What makes this even more important is that nattokinase has also been shown to break down the spike protein itself in vitro. This means it's positively attacking the damage and the culprit simultaneously. No pharmaceutical therapy has shown this combined effect. This is why the Wellness Company created Ultimate Spike Detox. It is designed to support the body's natural ability to break down spike proteins and support healthy circulation. Head on over to twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL10 to get 10% off. That's twc.health/rebel and code REBEL10 to get 10% off. All right, so on the headlines today, we have the feds drafting a plan to ban social media for children under the age of 14. This one comes from the Globe and Mail. So this is under the, I believe it is the the incoming online harms bill.
Yeah.
Part of a suite of possible measures aimed at protecting young people in the digital space. Apparently, 3 sources told that to the Globe and Mail. It follows a social media ban for younger people under 16 that took effect in Australia this past December. I've actually been watching that pretty closely. And it has caused other countries, including Canada and Britain, to consider following the Australian example. The sad thing about the Australian example is that it's not working. Is that these teens are so savvy on their devices and with tech that they're finding every which workaround there is to get past the ban. So this isn't really about protecting kids online, because if it were, there wouldn't be a bunch of workarounds that a 14-year-old could figure out.
Right. And really, all this does is raise the age from 13 to 14. But 13, those kids are still on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows youngsters, like young ones who are on Snapchat. because they like the kid-friendly filters, and or wherever the young people go. TikTok. They love the youngsters love having their brains rewired by TikTok. And kids already under the age of 13 are figuring out the workaround. So what's the federal government going to do? We're going to make it 14. Great.
I
How
think
does
it's
that
sad.
fix anything?
Well, and it's obviously just being done under the guise of protecting children online, but the Online Harms Act in and of itself is basically just a censorship and control bill. It's an online control bill. It's being sold to you as though it's going to protect children online by,
that's why they're
as you
doing
mentioned, bumping the age by 1 year, which is absolutely absurd. But this is really about censoring and controlling what you can find and access online.
Right. This is an omnibus censorship bill, and they have to shoehorn stuff about kids into it to get buy-in from the public. Because, everybody is in support of making sure that kids don't get harmed online. So why don't you support our stupid bill? Because your stupid bill censors adults and does really nothing to help kids. And helping kids is something that's already in pieces of legislation. There's anti-bullying legislation. There's anti-revenge materials. I'm trying to keep us on YouTube. Legislation already. They also rejected Michelle Rempel Garner's legislation that would have dealt with some of the things that are built into the Online Harms Act without all the censorship, but the Liberals rejected that because the point of the legislation is not about keeping Canadians safe online. It's about keeping the Liberals safe online from their critics.
Yeah, exactly. And they have to sell it to you and package it up with a nice pretty bow that it's about protecting children and their safety online. Which, I mean, at the heart of it, that's the parents' job also. I think that if kids had parents who were more involved in these spaces and who put more clear boundaries and stipulations on their social media use, we wouldn't also simultaneously have this epidemic of youth anxiety, depression, eating disorders, poor body image. All of these things are directly tied to the amount of time you spend doom scrolling on these platforms when you don't have a fully developed frontal lobe that can say, oh, it's been an hour and a half. I need to rein this in, disconnect, disengage, and go do something else. Like, these kids quite literally just don't have the brain capacity or the maturity level to be able to disengage. And that's really a failure, I think, on parents. And we've seen, like, here in Ontario, schools have had to step in. They had to launch lawsuits against the big tech giants and ban phone use in schools, which I would say also has an effect on the ability of children to hold teachers accountable, because we are starting to see those clips come out of how teachers were actually behaving in classrooms. But at the same point in time, these kids were being distracted on their devices with no parental oversight or control. So it's a failure by the parents. And then, of course, when you don't have the parents' oversight, then the state feels like it naturally has to step in, and that comes with its own repercussions.
Right. Like, why does your 10-year-old have an iPhone? You know
what
I mean?
Crazy.
Why? Like, why don't you just open the door and invite the weirdos into your house? Because that's what this is. This is a portal for weirdos to get access to your children. Why does your 10-year-old have an iPhone? Stop doing that, and the Liberals will stop trying to use that to censor the rest of us.
Exactly. It's really sad, though, with the school now, in the public system anyway, which has tons of problems in and of itself. But I find it's so normalized for these children to have phones, and then you have your children coming home and saying, "But everyone in my class has it," and that might not be totally true. But I feel like if parents were able to band together and say, "You know what? Let's all collectively say no to our children so that they don't feel like they're left out." And what positive or benefit is this really providing to our kids? We can see the anxiety, depression, social disorder, all of these things lamenting after the use of these devices. And it's going to take parents to come together and say, we're saying no, and maybe you should too.
Yeah. What's the other headliner? Immigration.
Yeah, let me just go through some of these super chats, because we have a couple piling up while we queue up the next headliner. We have Independent Alberta giving $5. Love Rebel News's work in Davos. StayFreeAlberta.com. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think the two are heavily enmeshed. The work that the team is doing on the ground in Davos, for freedom, for liberty, for free expression, for boots on the ground journalism, for the everyday little guy, and Alberta independence. They're two of the same, I would say. J Tama 8318 gives $10. Thank you very much. Europe has long promoted policies inimical to the interests of the US, along with the WEF and CCP, are working to weaken the US. Denmark's suggestion seizing Greenland would break NATO is acceptable. There's a lot in there, but yes, basically, I agree. And they would break NATO. And that's the other thing I loved that Mark Carney was questioned about at the end of his delivery, was he basically like condemned the rules-based order and said that we're doing away with that. And, you know, this also follows his comments, by the way, which I haven't mentioned yet and forgot to in the report I did on this, that this comes after Mark Carney repeated numerous times that our relationship with the US is effectively over, and just like cutting those diplomatic ties, dating back a few months ago. Now he's saying that there's an end to the rules-based order that we've all come to know and appreciate and be part of. And yet still we should uphold the rules-based order of NATO and other collective agreements and things. So again, the hypocrisy within the Davos schmooze fest is just on full display.
We've got, sorry, we have more, don't we? Sorry,
yes, we have Light T7Z gives $2. Thank you. What is Jolie on? Thank you both, and Rebel. Yeah, she's on her ivory tower on there on her throne. That's where she is. Jean-Philippe Bernard Tashes, 1830, is a new member. So welcome.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Glad to have you. Let's get into something that could have been addressed by our fentanyl/border czar, or the public safety minister who's busy trying to snatch up some 410 bird guns and other things that look kind of cool. The Americans told us to secure our border. And why wouldn't you do it for Canadians? It would make us infinitely safer. People are being trafficked across the border. Drugs are being trafficked across the border, back and forth, by the way. Guns are being trafficked across the border, fueling gang violence, extortion, etc., etc. It's just bad when you don't have a secure border. And the Americans called upon us to do something about it. We have not. We hired that fentanyl czar, and then we never heard from him again. And then now the predictable outcome is happening. Now that the Customs and Border Patrol and ICE is rounding up all the bad guys in the United States, those who are not being forcibly deported or self-deported with a teddy bear and a small cash stipend are fleeing to Canada. Why? Because they're going to get here. They're going to claim asylum from the United States for some reason, and then make their way into our asylum claimant queue, which is approaching a decade long at this point, completely broken. Actually, Justin Trudeau broke it back in, I think, 2017 when he said, "Welcome to Canada." And then they're like, "Okay, thanks, we are." And so now the Americans are dealing with their illegal immigration problem. And like I said, the predictable is happening. They're flooding across our open border into Canada. Now the bad guys are going to be our problem. So images from Minneapolis, which is a hop, skip, and a human trafficker taxi ride to southern Manitoba, show heightened tensions between residents and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers, scenes that immigration lawyers say are driving calls from people seeking to leave the United States. I get calls almost every day from people in the U.S. who are looking to move to Canada, said immigration and refugee lawyer Alistair Clark, noting many inquiries are coming from Minnesota and Venezuelans living in the U.S. Sure, the Venezuelans are fleeing the United States. You want me to believe that? I can't imagine that regular old Americans whose streets are safer now today than they were yesterday are the ones who want to leave because ICE is deporting all the murderers, drug traffickers, and sex traffickers. I can't imagine that that's the case. I think these are people who are living illegally in the United States who don't want to get sent home in handcuffs. And so they're looking for the next country in their grift. That's what's happening.
Yeah, and Canada really has promoted itself as a safe haven for just that. And you can come in here as a refugee claimant and feign protection and get upwards of $80,000-$90,000 a year in tax-free benefits and supplements to live pretty lavishly on the taxpayer dime that you have never once contributed or paid into. So
yeah, and I'm not against real refugees, like
No.
real refugees.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to help them. I do. I went to northern Iraq. I'm planning another trip to somewhere else that we're not ready to announce yet. I care about real refugees, like the real persecuted peoples of the world. The problem is we've got all these fake ones bunging up the queue, and we can't help the people who actually need the help.
Exactly.
Resources are limited.
Yeah. And I wanted to point out in this article too, I find it so ironic. I think it's the first picture down from this Global News piece. And you see all the ICE and police at this woman's door. If you zoom in there under her mailbox, it says, if we can pull it up, I want to make sure that I'm reading this properly.
We don't
if you
dial
can zoom in,
911.
we don't dial 911. I mean, how fitting that a swath of police and arguably border, security agents are showing up at your door where you've promoted right at your mailbox that you don't dial 911. How fitting.
In the olden days, back when I was younger, and I can say that because I'm much older than you, Tamara, that was like a don't knock on my door if you're a bad guy, because we don't call 911. I will deal with you myself sign. But now I think it's been co-opted by the anti-ICE people who are like, we don't call the cops because all cops are bastards. Well, call a social worker then, sister.
All right, we have a couple more super chats, and then
the daily cringe.
Before we get to the cringe, I do want to play one other. It's like the opposite of your daily cringe. I'm not sure what to call it, but
it's the daily delight.
Thank you.
I love it. I watched
works.
it so many times.
Yes. J. Tama, again, 8318, gives $2. Is Ezra bringing Swiss chocolate back for the Rebel ladies? Laugh out loud. I hope so. I mean, I'm here for it. But I think they're traveling very light, so I don't know if it would make it.
Do you think Swiss chocolate would survive in Ezra's custody for very long? Do you?
Good question. Ask Ezra. Send him a letter.
Yeah.
C. Bodin 60. My pronunciation is terrible. I apologize in advance and repeatedly for my horrible pronunciation. Gives $5. The amount of and I won't say it because YouTube, PORN, that is still coming through on Facebook is disgusting. They never stop that, but do not share a Canadian news article.
Great
yes.
point.
How dare you?
Great point.
Okay, our daily dose of delight is a taxpayer acknowledgement that has been happening or just happened at a Toronto City Council meeting. And I don't remember this guy's name. Do you know his name?
I forget his name, but he's from the group Integrity Toronto.
Yes.
If I recall correctly. And so though they are like the taxpayers advocates, like if there were a municipal Canadian Taxpayers Federation just focused on the damage that Olivia Chow was doing to Toronto, these are the guys. And they have an uphill battle in front of them, but they have been, I guess, delegating at city council meetings. And it is, as we said, delightful.
Okay, I'd like to start my deputation in a good way by acknowledging the people who fund this municipal enterprise, the Toronto taxpayer. Let's reflect and remember that every word spoken in this chamber, every light bulb, and every salary paid, including those of city councilors, is funded almost entirely by the hard work and earnings of taxpayers and property owners. Nearly all of the city's $18.9 billion budget comes directly from them. We acknowledge that while taxpayers and property owners have endured an almost 20% increase in the last 3 years, only a small and insulated group decides how much of their income is expropriated to sustain a burgeoning municipal bureaucracy that continues to grow regardless of outcomes and results. We pay respect to those taxpayers because without them, this institution could not indulge in ideological excesses like renaming streets and public squares, painting roads with inferior and environmentally damaging red paint, nor fund harm reduction programs that result in a steady stream of drug paraphernalia littering our streets, sidewalks, parks, and playgrounds. In this spirit of acknowledgement and with an eye to the future, we recognize the Toronto taxpayer and revere their tolerance for being taxed.
It's so funny to watch. I love the music
Their
overlay,
faces.
their faces in there. They're like, wait a minute, how do we stop this guy?
Right.
But he's literally doing everything that we do, just reversed.
It's great. It's great.
So good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was here for the taxpayer acknowledgement, and hey, let's make taxpayer acknowledgements the norm.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. But let's not forget that these bureaucracies only grant you, the little plebs, like 3 to 5 minutes delegation time. So you really have to hone in on the topic if you're going to spend however many minutes with a taxpayer acknowledgement. And Toronto's land acknowledgement is up somewhere upwards of 3 to 5 minutes in and of itself. So it's just craziness. But
Yeah.
without further ado, I know we're running up against the clock and we have things piling up. So let's just get to our daily dose of cringe. I don't know that I've seen this yet. So
Oh, you have to see it. Okay, so Laura Babcock, is a journalist. I think she's with Global News. She does have me preemptively blocked on X, and that's probably good because I would have made some rough fun of this. But she sent this tweet, and it is like the perfect elbows up boomer synopsis of what is going on in that cohort in central and eastern Canada. So Laura Babcock, I think, is the journalist of note for the boomer population. She says, wow, since today's O show I aired, I've had over 500 comments of Canadians willing to fight for our country, many seniors and youth. I hope Mark Carney understands that 1 million of us would sign up to a citizens' army if given the chance. And then she links to the show that she appeared on. Ma'am, there's a recruiting office near you. Like you could go do that if you were willing. But here you are, still on Global News or whatever unwatchable network that you're on, talking about it. But if these seniors, we want an army of seniors.
yeah, watch out.
And blue hairs, like the left-wing millennials who don't eat enough protein, don't get enough sunlight, and who need cry rooms, they're going to take up arms against the Americans and fight them. What arms, by the way? We're currently in a disarmament program, thanks to Gary and Nanda Sangari. But again, our army is a non-conscripted army of willing citizens. Go to the recruiting office near you if you'd like, my lady. But you're not. None of these people are, because this is all nonsense. But Linda Fletcher replies,
Yes.
this is the best. It is the best. Linda Fletcher says, and I've got a unique perspective on this because I spent a little bit of time at the curling rink this past weekend, so I know what goes on around there. And it's not all that athletic down there.
No.
My husband told me the seniors at the curling club.
Oh, watch out for those seniors at the curling club.
We're talking about the U.S. threat to Canada, saying that if war comes, they'll be the suicide squad taking their weapons to the border to shoot as many weapons. Where? What? Gary and Nanda Sangari's taking them. Your broom? Your curling
They're
broom?
curling brooms.
They'll take their weapons to the border to shoot, I guess it's guns, to shoot as many Americans as they can. People are anxious but resolute. They will defend Canada. Okay, well, you need to
Oh,
talk to
no.
Gary Nandasangari because he's taking your guns as if you people have any. And also, if you're saying this stuff on the internet, they're not going to give you an RPAL. Like, they're not going to give you that. But could you imagine roving bands of suicide squads on their mobility scooters rolling out of the curling rink to
With their
get us
curling
all?
brooms, just raw. Where's the internet? I need the internet. I need a meme with curling club seniors and their curling brooms. And what's the thing called that you
With
send?
the rock. The
Yes.
rock.
And their rock, they'll have that in hand. And they'll be just raring to go, I suppose. But where is the Online Harms Act when you need it?
You're
This
gonna go
is
kill
like
Americans?
actual violence being espoused by seniors at the curling club.
This is CBC radicalizing other people's grandparents. You know, like they think that they're going to go to the border, like I said, with their walkers and their mobility scooters, half drunk from the curling rink, and take on Pete Hegseth and the boys. Did you remember what he just did to Maduro? What has the CBC done to the grandparents of Central and Eastern Canada? I can't even believe this.
Oh
And
my
this lady put it on
gosh.
the internet like, I'm a patriot. Come and get your grandparents, young people. Teach them how to use the remote control so that they can change the channel, so that they can watch curling instead of going down to the curling rink where apparently you guys are organizing kill squads.
Save your grandparents from the curling club, please.
What
Collect
is
them.
happening at the curling club in Markham? I just don't even know. I have no
Oh.
idea. Can you imagine?
This,
Like a
what
sleeper
great
cell.
cringe.
You think they're down there watching, I don't know, the like the Bonspiel, and they are organizing a sleeper cell to kill Americans?
Paging CSIS. Check out the local curling club.
I can't even believe it. Like this in a normal country, Linda would have her bank account frozen. But this is
Linda
Canada.
sounds like she might have to.
My husband told me the seniors at the curling club were talking about the threat to Canada, saying that if war comes, they'll be the suicide squad, taking their weapons to the border to shoot as many Americans as they can. People are anxious but resolute. They will defend Canada.
I just want to know what weapons. Is it the rock? Is it the broom? Do these people have actual guns? Where is Gary and Desangari? These people are nuts. This is the definition of unhinged lunacy that's apparently festering at your local curling club in Canada.
This is like the movie Red Dawn, but for the nursing home. Like where they fight back the Chinese and the teenagers fight back the Chinese invasion. This isn't a movie, Edna. Like, what are you doing? Good God. What a time to be alive. I think that's the show unless we have some chats.
I think, yeah, there's no chats. Most of our viewers are probably just flabbergasted that this is real life. As am I.
This is real. This is what the mainstream media has done to other people's grandparents in Central and Eastern Canada. Ask Albertans why they want to leave. We don't want to be associated with suicide squads organized down at the Bonspiel. We just don't.
All right. With that, we'll wrap up this daily roundup. I think that is much needed comedic relief in a post-World Economic Forum heavy discussion. Check your local curling club. I guess just you can never be too aware of your surroundings, especially in the presence of seniors likely wearing
I'm
double
never
or
going to
triple
look at them the
masks.
same. I'm never going to look at them the same. I'm like, do I look too American? Should I be frightened of these Grammies and grandpas?
Don't turn your back on that.
Nope.
The broom, the curling broom, watch out. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks everyone for your super chats, super thanks, rumble rants, whatever they are. We always appreciate your support. And without you, we couldn't bring you this show and have these kinds of laughs at the expense of Grandma at the Curling Club. Thanks, Sheila, for always being a reliable host of the Rebel Roundup. Everybody in the background who you don't get to see their lovely faces, but they are there making sure the show runs smoothly and all the parts are there for your viewing and clicking pleasure. Until next time, we'll see you back here for the Friday round table, same time and place, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. And until then, watch out for your grandmothers at the curling club and try to stay sane.
My bandmate, co-founder of the Black Eyed Peas, best friend,
You know what? One line I've loved for 20 years is I'm so 2008, you're so 2000 and late.
So what we were talking about back then was AI. And the video that came right after that was a song called I'ma Be Rockin' That Body that, low-key, high-key predicts like text to music before there was LLMs and diffusion models. And I learned...
This beat be rockin'.
Yeah.
This beat go boom, boom.